Hi guys, Super Secret Tech here, and I'm going to be going over my Legacy Budget Fairy deck. I have it laid out a little bit different than normal because before I get to the lands, I really want to talk about some creatures because it helps explain the lands. Um, so first off, we have Spellstutter Sprite, not an uncommon card to see in fairies. Even less uncommon in a more budget-friendly fairy deck since they're about 6 cents a piece and are very, very powerful. Venser might not be one of the cards that you were thinking of when you heard budget fairies, but thanks to From the Vault, they're pretty inexpensive, and it's a really strong card with some of the interactions. Mistbind Click, obviously being able to shut them out on their turn is like the quintessential thing that fairies does. And Glenalandra Archmage. This card just gives you so much reach, and it gives you late game almost every single time when it's coupled with this card, Riptide Laboratory. This thing is an absolute beast. I used to play a deck similar to this in old Extended before it got changed over to Modern, and they pulled out Onslaught and Odyssey Torment Judgment. And so I think that for considering the cost, um, it's an extremely effective deck. When I was playing into the tournament, couple of people were saying, "Oh, well, it looked like one of those top tier decks," and it's because a lot of the cards that used to be super expensive, like Glenalandra Archmage, at one point was like 20 something dollars a piece. And now it's come down and it's pretty reasonable, thanks to Modern Masters. Venser is another one of those cards that luckily has come down in price quite a bit and is a lot more affordable than it once was. And then definitely Mistbind Click. I think it's because the fairy deck isn't as popular as it once was. Mistbind Click's come down. Spellstutter Sprite was reprinted. Pestermite was reprinted. Sign of Una was reprinted. So a lot of cards in this Spell Snare was reprinted. So it really helped out. Um, then we're running 20 islands, 4 Pestermites. The reason I went with Pestermite is because it has 2 really cool interactions. One, it can stop Emrakul from the Show and Tell deck. So when you can take out their win condition that lets them win that turn, it's really, really beneficial. 2, it can also untap your Riptide Laboratory to allow you to go infinite on their turn. Um, what I mean by that is basically if you uh, have Mistbind Click already in play and play, or I'm sorry, Pestermite already in play Mistbind Click on their turn to tap them out, and at their turn you Riptide Laboratory your click, you can untap your Riptide Laboratory again, like if you only have one and you have plenty of mana, and go ahead and Riptide again, and you're already set up to do the same thing next turn and keep doing it over and over and over until they can answer it on their upkeep. And hopefully they're dead by that time or you have a counter. Um, Scion of Una just gives you a lot of reach later in on the game, and it's a counter spell that you can still stop the ability from negatively impacting you. Um, what I mean by this is like if they're trying to kill, let's say you had the Mistbind Click combo going, and you just championed your Pestermite. Well, in response, they targeted Swords to Plowshares, targeting Mistbind Click. In response, you can play Scion of Una. And when you play Scion of Una, it counters their Swords to Plowshare. Now, you would need either another Mistbind Click, a Repeal, or a Venser, but any of those 3 cards, and you can pop Scion of Una back to your hand and go right back to Riptide combo. For the counter spells, we have 4 counter spells, 4 spell pierces. These just give you a lot of reach against the early turn 1 decks, and 3 spell snares. Again, there's a lot of 2-drops that are just really, really powerful in the format, and we want answers to those. We also have 2 brainstorms and 2 preordains for drawing ability, and 4 repeals. Again, these are good for your own creatures. These are good for the opponent's spells and creatures, like some of the troublesome artifacts and enchantments you can just bounce with repeal. Moving on to the sideboard, I have 3 blue elemental blasts, which this is good obviously against red decks. 3 dispels, which is good against the turn 1 combo decks because it gives you another way to deal with turn 1 answers. It's good against the counter decks, it's good against the burn decks, like it just has a lot of utility in the deck. Piracy Charm is really good against aggressive decks. It can also be very useful against combo decks, because if you start making them discard before they're ready to discard, it can be very, very detrimental. The other thing that's really cool is like if they're storming off turn 1 and they have 1 spell left and they have a let's just say they have a Seething Song on the stack, like it's the Charbelcher deck, and you know that they're going to play Charbelcher or empty the Warrens right then and there before they can do anything. You can discard them a card with Seething Song unresolved, and they just lost their combo. So it's another way. It's instant discard, which is very, very powerful, and so that's another use for it as well. Relic of Progenitus is good against Reanimator and Dredge. The reason I went with Relic and not the Leyline, not Ravenous Trap, not Tormod's Crypt is for the simple ability of the pay 1 and draw a card. I need cards to outrace those kind of decks, and if I can, because most of the time I'm pretty comfortable with letting them cast turn 1 Entomb and throwing a creature in the graveyard, on my turn 1, because I normally have a counter backup. So on their turn, when they try to reanimate it, I can stop it with either Spell Stare, Spell Pierce, basically, one of those two. Or if it's my turn 2, I can even possibly do like Spell Stare Sprite to stop like reanimate. So I have some options there. If it is so I wasn't too worried about the turn 1 stopping it, but I wanted to definitely stop it before it got out of hand. And so with the way my deck runs, I felt pretty comfortable with the playing of the Relic of Progenitus. And so it also gives me added advantage late game. And you can also bring it in against like the Snapcaster decks that's really effective, and you're just not out like an empty slot, like it replaces itself. So it just seemed like a better choice to me. And then finally, Steel Sabotage. This is again one of those that's really good against a lot of the combo decks, because a lot of the combo decks are using artifacts to kill your opponent. Like they're using Helm of Obedience, or they're using Goblin Charbelcher. And so it gives you an added way to stop a turn 1 combo deck, and it's also really, really strong against Affinity. And especially like the Glimpse Affinity, because man, you counter that first spell with Glimpse Affinity, where they draw their 2 cards, but you counter that first like big spell, or you counter their Thorn of Amethyst to really like keep you doing okay, and it really, really slows them down. Also, like into their turn or when they're attacking, you bounce their creature that has the Cranial Plating attack to it, and you just block everything else, and you normally come out ahead in those situations. So it's a really, really strong card. I hope you enjoyed it, guys, and have a good one. We'll have more for you soon.